Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Today is a writing video that's focusing on the essential question number 6. What's the purpose of applying grammar and mechanics skills in my writing? Today, we are going to be looking in the convention section of the learning targets for writing. And we're going to be looking at conventions number 11 first, and that's to use a comma to separate coordinate adjectives. We've talked about coordinate adjectives in the past. Remember, coordinate adjectives are when you have two adjectives back to back to describe a noun. So here's an example. We have a dog here. That's our noun. Coordinate adjectives might be the fluffy, happy dog. So if we have two adjectives right next to that noun, we need to use the flip-flop test and the test of the word and to see if we need to provide a comma between. Because if the word and needs to be in the middle, you can remove the word and just do a comma. Or if they can flip-flop, then you know you have a coordinate adjective. So fluffy, happy dog, happy, fluffy dog, or fluffy and happy dog. Yes, all three of those make sense. The comma is needed to separate these two adjectives before the noun here. So sometimes that's not always the case. Sometimes coordinate adjectives do not work. So here's an example. We'll talk about the house, okay? And I'm going to describe this house with red and brick. Red brick house. Now, if we try to say brick red house, it just doesn't make sense. So by using the flip-flop test here, these are not coordinate because it just doesn't make sense to say the brick red house. So that way they're not coordinate because they cannot flip-flop. Okay, so make sure you're doing the flip-flop test as you're trying to consider whether adjectives are coordinate or not. Let's do a couple practices with coordinate adjectives here. So here are 3 examples here that we're going to use to discuss and look for coordinate adjectives. Forecasters warned of another day of hot, windy conditions across Southern California on Sunday. So where do we need to provide a comma to make a fix in coordinate adjectives, or are no commas necessary? The correct response for this one is right here. Hot and windy, windy, hot day. It can flip-flop, so we need that comma before these two adjectives to describe the conditions. Let's look at the next one. The Red Wings are demonstrably a tough hockey team. Okay, so where do we need the adjectives in this sentence? Or do we not need any adjectives? The correct response for this one is they are not coordinate. Tough and hockey are both describing the team here, but if we flip-flopped it and said hockey tough team, that just doesn't make sense because these are not coordinate adjectives. Hockey is too close of an adjective to team, so we cannot flip-flop these two adjectives, and that means we do not need a comma. And the last one, the politician stands accused of giving stuffy, cliche-ridden graduation speeches. Where would we need to provide a comma for coordinate adjectives, or are there no coordinate adjective commas necessary? The correct response for this one is right here. If we read this cliche-ridden, stuffy graduation speeches, we definitely need it. Or if we say stuffy and cliche-ridden graduation speeches, we need it. Now, graduation is also an adjective to describe the speeches, but of course, it's too closely connected to speeches. So we would never put a comma between cliche-ridden and graduation because graduation cannot flip-flop. It's just too close to those words. Let's talk briefly now about the other area that we want to focus on today, and that's learning target number 13, to use punctuation or commas to separate items in a series. Now, this could be for words, which is ones that you guys are really good at. So use comma to separate 3 or more items with words. Use commas to separate 3 or more items with phrases, or it could be with, in fact, clauses, which are having a subject and verb, but subordinate clauses cannot stand alone. So let's look at how this plays out here. So in the first one, it says use commas to separate 3 or more words, phrases, or clauses. Where should you put the commas in order for this to make sense, if any? The correct response for this one is, here's the three areas: words, phrases, clauses. So we have our three items now properly separated right there. Let's look at this next one. This morning I woke up, got dressed, brushed my teeth, and ate breakfast. Where should we put the necessary commas, or is there no commas needed for commas in a series here? The correct response is, this morning I woke up, comma, got dressed, comma, brushed my teeth, comma, and ate breakfast. Now, sometimes, as you can see, even with those two being underlined, they don't underline this section here. The rule, this is called the Oxford comma. This comma is optional, but I like to do the old school method of providing that Oxford comma in it when I do my items in a series. Let's look at this last one. In fact, the bus was full of people who got dressed, who brushed their teeth, and who ate breakfast this morning. Where should we put commas for items in a series, or are there no commas necessary? The correct response is that the bus was full of people who got dressed, comma, who brushed their teeth, comma, and who ate breakfast this morning. So that's one of those examples with clauses. So we have who got dressed as a clause, who brushed their teeth as a clause, and who ate breakfast this morning as three different clauses, but still we need those commas to separate those items in a series. So go ahead and get writing and make sure you're checking your piece for using commas for your coordinate adjectives, as well as using commas to separate your items in a series appropriately.